Good morning. Um, I'm glad to be back. I didn't really go anywhere. I don't always know what it is that I'm doing this for. And I'm quite uncertain as to what the finished product that I'm even going for is. I'm following my nose, I'm following my own bliss. I'm only coming into the studio and doing the recordings when I feel inspired to do so, and then what I do with them is because I don't really think the point is at this moment to get lots of listeners. Yes, it is true. I want to be in the middle of a discussion that is bigger and broader, and but it's like I want to start this conversation on my own here. And I want it to be very clear what this conversation is before, other people start joining me. So it's not so bad that there's nobody that listens to this show. If you happen to stumble on this show and like you're the only one who watches it, you're like, what is this? Who is this person? This who am I person? Indeed, who is she indeed? Uh, well, this is a discussion about something that I find extremely near and dear to my heart. Something that my budding understanding of is making me um, uh, my mm, driving me to do something about it. I have a pure positive inner voice that I keep hearing in my head, telling me all kinds of pure positive things, whispering, grima, worm tonguing, all this pure positive stuff in my ear. And I have just been, the Who Am I project has been me learning how to give voice to this pure positive self inside. Just voice to her thoughts. She's got all kinds of thoughts. Now, what we do about those thoughts, what I do about those thoughts, I mean, I've got the same problem as everybody else. I am a human being. I'm a human being in a human world with people having certain kinds of ideas about who we are and what we're doing, and there's a collective thing going on where all kinds of people have subscribed to this relationship with one another that includes the business world, the government world, the formal education world. And it comes with it an agreement, if you will, about who we are and what's possible. And right now, this agreement seems to claim that we have to be burning fossil fuel and the infrastructure should look this way, and these things are the truth about physical reality, and this, fill in the blank, as a result of all this, is who I am in the context of that. That's what the group is saying. And you know what? I have always been a fringe person, a little bit fringy, but with a desire to be. Oh, I want to play with the cool kids too. Actually, who are the cool kids? The fringy ones were kind of the cool ones. But I also want to belong. Hold on one moment, I'm going to do something. Let me back up just a second because I was not entirely clear what I'm talking about. So, my age is boomer, and my generation had a bone to pick with the establishment. And frankly, I still do a little bit. Or there's some aspects of me that absolutely has bones to pick with some aspects of establishment. Although The teachings of Abraham have taught me that to find my true way, I need to let go of some of the resistance that I have to the rest of the world around me. Quit just stop wasting my time pushing back here and there. Instead, go find what I'm excited about. Go find what I'm happy about. Go find what I think is really cool. Go find what ignites my energy field, as opposed to, pushing back against the things in this world that I don't like, which is what we're all taught to do. Go find what you don't like and push against it. So where have I landed now? Because Abraham has taught me that in some ways, in more ways than I can imagine, and with more faith than I had to give to it, because now I understand our structure better. I understand the laws involved better. I know that every single one of us actually has an inner being. The problem is that we're misinterpreting it. We don't understand how actual reality comes into actual being. And I'm going to tell you that it is known. No, that's not the right way to put it. The mathematics has been discovered, and the viewpoint is understood. And maybe this morning, since I'm only 7 minutes into the show, maybe this morning I'm going to devote the show to me describing and explaining how the universe fits together. Now, I'm going to do an inadequate job. If you want to see a perfect job done, go watch all of Nassim's work, and I can point you to all of it. There's all the papers. You can find lots and lots of the stuff over at zenodo.org. You can find a bunch of the stuff over. Just go Google International Space Federation. Nassim Haramein. Put his name in there too, so you don't get some other government agency or something. And you'll find links to all kinds of his work and papers. The latest paper, I don't know if it's the latest paper. He may actually have papers that are later than this one, because this one was last September. It's in peer review right now, and no one has disputed the math on it. The interesting thing, so I could point you to all of his work, and please go look at his stuff, but the whole point of my show is that I get to where I can describe it, so that I can explain to you why we have reason to hope, if we would but put the puzzle together. We have everything that we need to fix every problem that we have on planet Earth. We have all of the information. Now we just have to put it together before the clock runs out. And what do I mean before the clock runs out? Well, for one thing, without even being a pessimist, we do live on a very geologically dangerous and active planet. And shit can and we're messing with the climate right now. We're not even allowing it to be the kinds of gentle, dependable, the optimal. We're not even allowing it to be optimal with what it is. We're messing with the climate. On the one hand, I do believe that there are cyclical, this is part of the issue. There are cyclical global thermal changes that happen this is a very globally, thermally, geologically active planet. And the clock is going to tick out at some point, as far as us needing to have our shit together so that we can respond to some big crap that will be coming our way. And you don't even have to be pessimistic to understand that for humanity, this is absolutely true. Now, for each one of us as an individual, it's not necessarily true for every single one of us, and certainly not true for every single one of us in the same way. But our geological instability is going to be a factor for multiple hordes of us. And at some point, the clock is going to tick out as far as... And anyway, why did I go down this road? The spirit is that there are challenges that human beings really do need to face, even if you are an incredibly optimistic person who does not spend their time thinking about gloom and doom. The fact is that some of us could spend some of our time, even if we aren't thinking gloom and doom, we could be spending some of our time imagining, facing some of our issues. Our issues are sixth mass extinction, people. Sixth mass extinction. I could stop right there. That is a big enough problem that if you understood that we've got to deal with this, we need to halt the extinctions. We need to turn the biological vector the other direction so that instead of creating scarcity, we begin to co-create abundance with the rest of the field. We need to understand how this field works and who we are in this field of energy that connects us all, that matrixes the universe into a oneness that actually is... It is... what's the word? Viable. It makes sense to contemplate the wholeness. It matrixes us into a oneness that it is viable for us to discuss in this manner. Now, who the hell do I think I am? I am nobody. But that's the cool part, because ultimately my message is every single one of us is glorious. Glorious and amazing and intelligent. Even the fools out there are, now they aren't tapped into their intelligence, so they aren't being intelligent. The fools that you see, they are not being intelligent. I'm not saying, behold, genius, aren't they just? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that at the heart of our design, and you can tell what your design is when you go into your own self. Turn inwards, cast your gaze inwards and behold. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, look at the fools out there and behold the genius. No, I'm saying all you fools out there, turn inward and find your own genius. Because each and every one of us is designed in a really, really cool way. Because we are part of this matrixing field of energy that connects us all together. And there's a particular structure to it. And it is now finally, hallelujah, understood. We have been understanding parts of it, and those parts of it have brought us a miraculous century. The 20th century was a miraculous century, and compared to some of the suffering and separation and enslavement that we had experienced in the 19th, 18th, 17th centuries, I'm telling you, the world is getting to be a better place, a much better place than it used to be. Back 100 years ago, when Hitler was, well, it's not quite 100 years ago, because this would have been in the 1930s, after he had achieved Führership and was trying to convince the German public, to get on board with whatever. He implemented some programs, embryonic programs, but he was on the right track on some things. He had something called, what did he call it? And why am I citing Hitler as somebody to emulate? No, I'm not citing Hitler as what I'm here to tell you is that every single human being has rightness somehow. It might be twisted in a funhouse mirror kind of way. And you might have to untangle some of it to find the purity of the clarity of the truth of the rightness that even they were. I think, what was the program? And I wouldn't know. I wouldn't remember what it was called in German, although I could go find it by watching a particular show again. It was either Hitler's Inner Circle, or it was Hitler, the one that came out in 2024. It's over on Netflix. Very good series, actually. Very insightful, as it sees the whole thing as, it doesn't really completely. I want you to know that the whole phenomenon, human beings did that. You can't just point at Hitler and Nazis and safely from a completely disconnected position say, they did that, we did not do that, they did that. No, we did that. Human beings did that. And as a matter of fact, I have found out through, 23andMe or, Ancestry, whatever. People have done the genetic work in my family tree, and it turns out that my family, who gave a lot more credit to the English side, turns out to be quite Germanic. My genetics, my ancestry, I am German. Even though I was born and raised here in America, I'm German. My blood is German. So it's not they that did it, is it? It is us. But if you know me, and if you follow my show, and if you have ever watched what I do, you will know that for at least this hour, I muse and ponder in a space where I believe that the ultimate frame that we have to hit this frame, is that there is no us and them. And the way to solve humanity's problems on the planet is to see ourselves that way, is to understand who we really are, each individual. And now what you do is individually you go inside yourself, cast your gaze inside of yourself and recognize your own nature. But we're gonna do this we're gonna add some information to the pot. We're not just gonna say, everybody just go look inside yourself and come up back with the good stuff, and then when everybody's in alignment, then we'll just talk. It's not exactly like that. I'm gonna add some information to the pot so that people can understand their own alignment and their not alignment. Your alignment, most of the time, now you go in and out of alignment constantly, but for most human beings, when they are in alignment is when they aren't thinking. Their thinking takes them way down. And unless you are used to pure positive, spinning pure positive notions, like taking pure positive, non-resistant possibilities and spinning them into more, unless you're used to doing that. And even, I'm going to tell you, even if you are used to doing that, because that's what I do, that's what I do, is for an hour I give voice to a pure positive self that I have that is sort of removed from my everyday self, although she isn't really. She just talks. It's a longer tick than. What am I saying? The act of thinking drags your energy down, drags your frequency down, unless you are used to thinking in pure positive thought. And most people aren't. And I'm not either, although I do practice this art. This is what I do for an hour every day. I think in terms of pure positive possibilities. I'm so excited because I understand the structure of this matrix. And I'm so excited because I understand the law of attraction. Oh my God. I understand my binary nature. Holy crap. I understand the power of focus and attention and how all of these things relate to one another and how they are all me. And how we are all this field that connects us together. And how if we will plug into the damn field, we can get our information out there faster, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to plug into the field. I'm trying to plug into where my own emotional energies are, that pure positive self where I am, plug into that at the same time that I'm thinking about, so basically I think about the laws of the universe, the laws of the universe, the laws of the universe. And the teachers will tell you from many different directions a few different things about the laws of the universe. There's different teachers, different teachings, different laws. They aren't actually disagreeing with one another. If you go over to the spiritual side of the equation, you have things like the 5 kleshas from Buddhist philosophy, which are considered to be the root causes of all suffering. So you could say that this is kind of a version of the laws of the universe, if you think that this is absolutely true, that so let's find the 5 kleshas. I have them here. The 5 kleshas, considered to be the root cause of all suffering. Not knowing what's real, grasping and clinging to the unreal, being afraid of that unreal thing, which you don't need to be afraid of it because it's not real, and so you're wasting your time and your focus and your attention being afraid, misdirecting your emotional energy because you don't understand who you are. You don't understand that the only one there who is real is the love. The love is the real, the love is the connected self, the love is the field. And then number 4, identifying with an imaginary self. I will amend that here as soon as I go back to my other slide. Identifying with an imaginary self. And last, fear of death, because when you don't understand who you are, then you don't understand that actually death is completely safe. The problem is, as a human being, you're going to be very sad to quit playing with the forms that you have been playing with, all the people that you love so much, your family, your friends, your children, your spouse, all of those people, you're going to be sad to lose playing with them, you know. I haven't been playing with a lot of people, and so the pain is going to be a little less. I have like 3 that I just don't know how I would say goodbye to these 3. And then you can ripple out a little bigger from there. You can throw in, grandchildren. One whom would be hard for I don't want to be more specific than that. But my two biological children and my spouse, there is hard to find anybody that it's going to be harder for me to say goodbye to than those. You go farther out, and there's more family that's still close family that I love dearly. And then you go farther out, and there's more family and more friends and loved ones and all of that. But I am a very I'm almost a hermit. And I want to be a little less of a hermit, but I also do not want to imply that this impulse to hermetism was for no reason. There is some reason my inner being wants me to focus the way she wants me to focus. It helps me understand the universe at large. And I do believe that at least for these hours when I am in my pure positive state, where I am seeing nothing but well-being and nothing but possibility, and I'm not casting dark shadows across the landscape, at least for those times, it feels to me like I understand this matrix, this energy field, and who I am and who we are, and how to look at this in a way that will be constructive and coherence making. And it turns out the coherence making is really, really, really important, because the more you come into coherence with this field of energy, the more that your thinking creates coherence, the more your actions reflect coherence, the more that your focus is on coherence, the more that you try to, aid and abet coherence. Coherence is energy producing. The more coherent the field becomes, that energy field spikes to infinity. And when it's decoherent, when it goes into chaos, it flattens to zero, but the 0 point energy field has the same amount of energy. It's just chaotic. Now it's half over here and half over here. There's no coherence to it. It all cancels out. If you're at that place where you're looking at the good of the world and the bad of the world and the good of the world and the bad of the world, and I like this and I don't like that, and this is good and that's bad, and I feel pretty good here, but I'm scared over here. If you're doing that to yourself, what you're actually doing is somehow mysteriously, you're canceling everything out. Everything's canceling out to zero. No wonder you don't know where to go. You don't know who you are, and you don't know what you want, and you can't feel the pull of the gravity of that star that is actually inside of you. You have a star inside of you that if you would get some of the negative out of the way, so that you could start feeling that gravitational pull, then you start realizing the value of getting all the negative out of the way, and then you fall into the gravity well of that star that you are. That's what you're looking for, but that was somebody else's visual, and I sort of liked that visual. I thought it was pretty cool. But we're talking about the laws of the universe. And I'm going to be coming at everything from a very fundamentalist kind of a way. I am a fundamentalist, but not in the traditional sense of the word. And there's certainly nothing negative or me feeling like I have to push anything on anybody and everybody has to see it my way, and boy, they better toe the line or we're not going to make it. No, actually quite the contrary. If you input this little piece of information that I'm going to try to give you, you will realize the value and importance of authenticity and diversity and focusing on the spirit only. Focus on the damn spirit only and let the matter shake out the way it needs to shake out. And don't quit insisting with your physical brain that it has to shake out this way or that way, because I guarantee you that whatever you have lined up with your physical brain as how it needs to be in physical form is not nearly as magnificent as the universe will shake it out to be if you will hold to the Spirit and insist only that the Spirit stay loving, kind, connected, possible, hopeful, positive, all of that. Hold on to the Spirit and let the matter change. That quote from, what's his face, the guy who wrote, Milton Mayer, who wrote They Thought They Were Free. The gist of the quote has to do with, they focused on the forms, and they looked around at some point and the forms were all the same and the Spirit had changed. And that's what I'm saying. Keep your eye on the Spirit. Focus on the Spirit of it, people. And you'll get what you want. You'll get what you want. Your body will be healthier, slimmer. Your relationships will be better, such as they are. Whatever relationships you want. If you don't want lots of relationships, that's okay too. Whatever it is, whoever you are, you can be whoever you want to be. You can be, do, and have anything that you want. You just need to get clear about what it is you want. So what do I mean about that? Well, you've got like a village of people inside of you, a whole village of people. And think of them as representing every single type there is. Abraham was having fun thinking about it as the seven dwarfs, but with every other, there's passive aggressive and manic depressant, and there's the jealous one and the guilty one and the shameful one. There's the hopeful one and the eager one and the positive one. There's the cheerleader and the wallflower and the everybody. There's a whole village of people inside of you. Every single one of them a human being. Well, I don't know. Every single one of them a kind of entity you could visualize as a villager inside yourself. And they want different things. And you know what? When you get all of them in agreement, wanting the same thing, you will get it. The only reason you already don't have what you want is because the villagers inside of you are still arguing. So that's why the work is internal. That's why the work is inside of you. It's not outside of you. And whatever you do outside of you, it might look like anything. It could look like stay-at-home mom. It could look like running a billion-dollar empire. It could look like being some sort of a clergy in a cloister. It could look like being the head of a country. It could look like it could look like being a gaucho on the pampas. It could look like being Diane Fossey studying gorillas. It could look like, Bobby Flay cooking in a kitchen, or a cook, fulfilling their dream of cooking in a kitchen against Bobby Flay. It's not for me to say, it's not for any of us to say what is the right thing for any of us to do. I used to be so judgy. I'd judge, like, the NFL, for instance. I judge the whole thing and all people involved in that. Oh, those foolish people. Why aren't they paying attention to politics, for instance? Why aren't they paying attention to politics? Don't they understand that a madman is running for president? We must all stop him, or whatever. This was a thought I had some 9 years ago. Well, since then, I have done a lot of thinking. Some of it happened during COVID. We were all sort of, or a lot of us were asked to stay home and think about it for a year. And some of us who are older and whose incomes were well established. My husband came home and worked at home for that whole year, made exactly the same amount of money, and actually it was a pretty good year. I enjoyed the year off. I mean, I felt guilty enjoying myself that year at times because I knew that everybody around me wasn't feeling that way. I knew that there were people on the front lines who were afraid. And some people, were getting sick, and not as many as they made us think, you know. They used that moment. So they. The, there's only us. There's us at different levels. We are a collective being, and we are an individual. We are individuals, and we are a collective being. And we actually need to learn how to be both, and how to be the greater being without a form that's being forced on us from the outside, like a top-down, centralized government sort of forcing us into this oneness. We need to understand how to be a collective spirit without it being lockstep and groupthink. And the way to do this is to understand who we are, to understand our vibrational anatomy, to understand the field around us and how we are the field. And so during the course of these discussions that we're going to have over the next, I don't know how long, and it is not my job at this time to worry about who is listening to these discussions. It is up to me to just find my pure, positive field of information inside of me and start spinning this stuff. It's that me doing this show, that's what I need to do. At some point, figuring out how to, if I ever say anything really clear, and then, oh my gosh, this needs to come out because people need to understand who we are and how this works. Somebody else is probably going to get excited about it at some point and make sure that it gets out there. And maybe it will even happen after my death. I hope not. I hope that's not what I'm building towards. I hope that I do this and get to a point where I feel that I can propagate the material. And this just becomes another... See, my problem is, right now, I can only look forward with this. It's hard for me to look back and look at what I have made on these shows. Because while I do this show, I am in pure, positive, forward-looking mode. I'm not looking back. And it's hard for me to do both the forward-looking, pure positive, and backward-looking, pure positive. It's hard to look backward, pure positive. But because you start getting lost in regret, and you inevitably start thinking about things that you don't want repeated, like the World War. Now, which World War would I be talking about? Well, if you know me, and not many people do, you will know that I have come up with a new thing lately where I realized that there really was only one world war. We have only had one. And the reason that we think we've had two is a function of the frame that we're looking in, because World War II was actually just World War I Part 2. Because all the players involved, certainly on the Nazi side, and they are the ones who explicitly invited the whole world back to finish that first war. Every one of them were ideologues forged in the cauldron of that First World War. Every one of them was. Some of them just missed the opportunity to actually prove themselves in actual battle. And so they had this glorified, deranged, they had a glorified view of what that was. Himmler was one of those. He did not actually see action in the First World War and wanted to. And so, he was part of that Goering war hero. He was a decorated war hero. Hitler was frustrated because he was an ideologue and an absolute true believer, and they got him believing in this German dream, in the righteousness, in the rightness of sacrificing everything and all for this glorious cause, whatever it was. And then they sold out on him. They settled. There was a negotiated peace, a negotiated settlement, and Germany was forced to eat all the crow. It was forced to say, we did it. This was 100% our fault. Nobody else had any blame in this, and we're going to pay almost every single bit of the war debt. And then comes the crash of 29. I mean, all of this, now there was some stuff that happened before 29 as far as, the beer hall pushed, where I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that quite right. Pooch, I don't know, where Hitler tried to overthrow the government and take control of the reins of government by forceful means. And that didn't work out, and so then he went with the ballot box and a negotiated thing with Hindenburg, and then he becomes chancellor, and then he takes all the reins of power and whatever. Anyway, it's an interesting story, but all of his people and his circle of people that helped him and he named them all, you do this and you do that, you're the architect, you're head of the Air Force, you're head of, the expansion in Poland, you're in charge of putting out the message, the propaganda, but all of the people and all of the players involved all came straight out of World War I, and all of their view of the world and their view of, came from another interesting dynamic that was playing out at the time, that came forth from new philosophies churning in the world. It came from Darwinian survival of the fittest philosophy coming out of the 19th century. And there were three different political philosophies that took that same survival of the fittest notion and wrapped it in their vision of what the government structure needed to be, and they were all sort of vying for supremacy, vying to prove who was right about, the philosophy of reality. What's the best way to work the survival of the fittest? As a capitalist, as a communist, or as a fascist? There were three different forms of the government. Now, let's see, how shall we do this one? The democratic capitalism was our side. As an American, that was the side of some of the Allies. Then later, the Allies, capitalism had to sort of get into an unholy alliance with communism for half a minute in order to smash fascism, because fascism was, in this case, Hitler. Now, fascism doesn't have to be wielded by a Hitler. Fascism turns out to be the form of government where you have the private sector, but then the government is fully in bed with all of the structure of the private sector. So it becomes like this mass that you can't hardly tell the difference between. But government, you got generally at the top of the whole structure is a dictator of some sort, dictating how things work. Communism is where all of the private sector stuff isn't private. All of the machinery of how everything works, how goods are produced, and Where the problem with that one is it's all a vision of what somebody thinks society ought to be. And I'm telling you that our physical brains, especially from that position, have no clue as to what would really be a good way for us all to link together. So, anyway, that's what was going on at that time. And Hitler was completely convinced about, I'm not sure exactly, but definitely in my mind, there has only been one world war. And that one world war had a pause for 20 years, although it started brewing less than 10 years in. By 1928, Hitler was well on his way to forming the organizational structure that he needed to take over Germany's government and then start, whatever he did for World War II. What I'm saying is it was one world war. And that's good news. That's really good news because it means that maybe we only needed one. Instead of we did one and then foolishly we turned right around and did another one. No, we really just did one. And we took it to its bitter, 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 bitter end. With definitely tens of millions of people dead all across the world from many different ways. From murder, starvation, strife and suffering in general, all the civilians, the direct casualties of the soldiers. It was horrific. And then it goes into the billions when you start talking about how much other kinds of life was lost. Because I'm telling you, when you bomb a whole forest, anyway, that's just the animal lover in me pointing out that human beings were not the only ones that died. But tens of millions of us did, and I promise you, we don't really need to do that again. I actually don't think we need to do that one again. And when you get enough people starting to focus inward instead of outward, when you focus outward, I get it, we all are fools. There's no hope at all. There's nothing but darkness, and we're nothing but idiots. It's true. When you start looking at it from the outside, you can find plenty of evidence to discourage yourself. But when you look inside and you realize what a human being actually is, when you have the courage to understand who you actually are. Now, I want you to know that I'm saying this from my pure, positive, not necessarily connected to my regular life kind of place. I have to take these pure, positive things that I am saying during this show, and as soon as I turn off this microphone and I go take my shower, get dressed, and go deal with the people in my life, I have to deal with exactly the same things that anybody else does. And I am not saying this from on top of an empire, saying, look at me, look at what I've created, and believe me because of all these things that I have created. Actually, I am just beginning my journey of coherence. I am so excited for what's coming because I understand that the more coherent I get, the more energy the universe is going to allot me, because that's how the energy field works. Higher coherence, higher energy. Lower coherence, energy flattens. And it all cancels out to the random function. So what does that mean when you look at the universe? What's going on out there in the universe? How do I understand this field that we are all a part of? The way it works is where it's organized in coherence, and that coherence equals spin. When it is organized in coherence, it looks like matter. Where it is not organized, it's canceling out to the random function, and it looks like space. And all of it is connected to all of it. You are connected to all of it, and you are connected through the mechanism of your consciousness, because consciousness is actually what it all is. It is all consciousness, and your consciousness is not an epiphenomena coming off of your brain, but your brain actually is a very sophisticated um, antenna mechanism. It works as both a transmitter and a receiver. And how are you transmitting? Well, you are transmitting all the time. You are either transmitting chaos or you are transmitting coherence. And depending on which way you're leaning, it's indicating how your life is turning out. I promise you, if you are broadcasting in coherence, your life is turning out way, way better than if you are broadcasting in chaos. And it has to do with the two beings that you are inside of yourself. One is the one you know, that's the mind coming off of your physical brain, but you got another one, and it is coming off of all of the matter everywhere. And it's not just coming off the matter, it's coming off the spaces too. But the matter is where we're always looking, where we think it's interesting. The spaces is where it's canceling out to the 0 point function, to the 0 point energy field. It's canceling out. It looks like so conventional physics discounts that Dirac sea of chaotic energy. They disregard it because they assume it all cancels out to the random function. And so why look at it? It's all stochastic. It's just roiling, doesn't mean anything. There's as much positive as there is negative, so it's all canceling itself out. So why look at it? But it isn't all canceling out. Where it doesn't cancel out, that's where you see matter. Matter is just an extension of this. It's actually exactly what Abraham has been saying. We are extensions of source energy. All of physicality is an extension of the space-time, space-memory network of this Planck field that is spinning together and matrixed together in a particular way, with a particular kind of geometry, with very particular and formal and rigorous mathematics that allow you to look at the stats on the wholeness of the universe, the size, entropy, temperature, and extrapolate using mathematics, showing, because it's all scales of the same thing, showing how it relates to one another. You can input the mass of the universe and output the diameter of a proton, the exact diameter, radius of the proton, the exact radius of the proton. The diameter is just radius times 2. That's how beautifully this new math comes together. And what it does is it shows that you can absolutely get free energy, free, clean energy directly out of the field, out of the matrix. And it does not violate any of the laws of physics. And you know what? I think this time when we I just had a big vision and a big image. I don't know how to put it together. It was an analogy showing maybe when the peasants rise up against those who own everything this time, as opposed to what we did way back in 97, with the guillotine. I mean 1797. Actually, it probably started a little earlier than that. When was the terror? It was the late 1700s. I know that, in France. I should go look at that and see exactly when those years were. The guillotine might have been well underway in 97. Anyway, this time when we take back, when we even it up, or when we egalitarianize the planet, we shouldn't hang or guillotine all of the wealthy people responsible. As a matter of fact, we should celebrate them. We should love them. We should let them keep a lot of their stuff too, actually. And we should acknowledge how to create abundance across the board for all of us, instead of blaming and judging those who have somehow amassed to themselves a control of abundance. Maybe that's what people are resentful of. They're resentful of, hey, why does that person control all of that abundance? We're the ones who helped him create it. Why does he get to control all of it, and why does he get to have all of the fun and the leisure? Well, if we would quit pushing back against all of the things that are trying to come down the pike to help humanity have less suffering, have more fun, things like AI and automation, the only reason that they are threatening to some people is that some people, they need their crappy job, or they have no ticket into the grocery store to be able to feed their children, and so now their children go hungry. And you know what? We're going to fix that. We're going to fix that, because I promise you that free, clean energy across the board is not going to utterly collapse the whole system. It's not going to utterly collapse it. What it's going to end up doing is adding a great deal of energy. It's going to inject literal energy into the system. And a whole bunch of people are going to have the energy to do what they need to do, and they don't have to use fossil fuel to do it. Now, pay for the conversion on their existing farm equipment. And now you can run your farm equipment without having to use fossil fuels somehow. I mean, I'm imagining this very generally. I know that it's fully possible if people would quit looking at what we've got and saying, well, I don't know how to, convert this crap that we've got into what we need. It might end up being a matter of what Abraham would call laying new pipes. Instead of trying to figure out how to unclog the old pipes, it's like, just screw it, leave the old pipes where they are and lay some new ones. I know we can get where we need to go, and I know that 100% clean, free energy directly out of the vacuum, wherever anyone is, no matter what the physical infrastructure around them, I know that is a more powerful system than the one we've got right now. The thing is the one we've got right now is the one we've got. It's the one that people are actually using to get their day-to-day work done. And they're so busy doing that and upgrading all of the systems involved with that they can't focus on, they have no time for the change. So over there on the side, people like you and me, if you're listening to me and you understand any of the things that I'm saying, and in faith and confidence and knowing, do you see how these things play together? How the law of attraction works with the new unified physics? Probably not. Because since I only talk for an hour, I tend to talk about talking about things, as opposed to actually getting into the meat and potatoes and telling you how this Planck field actually flows, how it is reverberating its information. I like that word, reverberating its information, because what it's doing is, through the Planck field, through vibrational frequencies, touching each other, and everything at the 0 point level touching. It's all of the scales, large and small, are transferring their information, large and small. From the small is uploading its information to the whole. The whole is downloading all of its information to all of the parts. And the energy levels, the layers, the energy levels at these different scales are different. The smaller that you go, the tighter that energy is. And the higher, the tighter the vortex of that spin at the center of it. But it's all... we are so cool. We are so cool, and it is so cool. And I'm telling you, when you put all this together, you have to conclude, oh my gosh, if I could just keep my focus on the positive, if I could just if I can get my negative self to be quiet, to shut up for a minute, and let the momentum of my positive side start getting a foothold. I know that Abraham talks about this all the time. She has her own words for doing it, but she's talking about the same thing, and it has to do with that breaking that hard shell around that star that's inside of you so that you can start falling. You can feel yourself starting to fall into the gravity well of that star. It's all of that. It's all of those things. It's also... you could think of it, Eckhart Tolle is also not wrong when he describes this pain body. It's almost like a negative entity. It's a shadow of yourself. It's being played out by you. It's driving your vehicle. It is you in your negative state. But it has its own energy field and its own energy pattern, and it's really interesting because when your negative self starts to lose steam, it actively tries to go out and pick a fight with somebody so that it can have a negative energy swill. And the person it picks a fight with is having the same issue. This is how your negative pattern is drawing you into negative things, drawing you into fights, into car accidents, into, things that you aren't going to like, aren't going to get along well with your fellow human beings when you walk down that path. And there's a kind of entity born in that moment that now walks the earth that the rest of us are dealing with because we are a field phenomenon and there is a negative entity in the field now. It doesn't really have a life of its own, and if you'd let it play out and lean to the positive self, it would take care of itself. It's not really independently sourced like some people imagine the devil is, an actual negative energy with a negative source. It's really this other thing that we do when we don't know who we are. When we don't know who we are and we allow our negative self to drive the vehicle, there's consequences. There's a thing that happens. And I will talk about it. It's not my only thing that I have to talk about. I have a jillion things to talk about. Divine autonomy. The ideas of Loki, Shiva, and demonic energy, which is all the same thing. I just say it in those three ways: Loki energy, Shiva energy, demonic energy. It's a chaotic, destructive aspect, energy organization, sort of like a hurricane, as opposed to actual order. Order happening by someone's love and desire coming together with the field to create a great, a beautiful building or park or art project or organization for kindness or goodness or, whatever. That as opposed to the organization of a hurricane, which has organization, but it's destructive. It's a destructive force as opposed to a constructive force. We're going to talk about all these things, how you can understand your own life, your own government, your own, understand fundamentally and foundationally, vibrationally. All of these things, we're going to be talking about who am I? Who am I as source energy? What is source energy? What is this quantum field, this quantum matrix that connects us all? And how does a better understanding of it make my individual life better? And how would a general collective understanding of this, each in their own way, each holding to the spirit and letting the form take its shape? You have your preferences, but the spirit is always primary. The spirit is always primary. And the reason the spirit is primary is because the universe is vibrational. And so the spirit is actually the frequency of the becoming. And when it feels good, it's coming in right. It feels good. Yeah, we're all playing together. Abundance is being created. I can see beauty. There's coherence. There's organization. There's function. There's all kinds of beautiful things happening. That's what it feels like. And when it doesn't feel like that, and you're trying to force something into place, because but it feels so bad. It's going to be bad when you get there. Don't pay attention to the forms. Don't focus on the forms. The forms are in your peripheral vision. The form is still the target. But you can't change the form by staring straight at the form and going directly at the form and to hell with the spirit. The spirit is actually primary. The vibration is primary. It means it comes first. And the physical world is not an illusion, but it's a secondary effect. It's not a primary thing. It's a secondary thing. And so even though it might be in the back of your mind, your primary target, ultimately I want the matter to change, and I want it to change in a manner that is spiritually pleasing unto me. Well, if you want that, then focus on spirit first. Spirit first, and then get into alignment with your inner being, your vibrational self, with all of the village inside of you. Get into agreement. Agree about something. Some of them in there, you can get them to grudgingly agree. You can get them to at least say, well, I'm not going to interfere. And that would be enough. That would be enough for the negative ones to just shut up for a minute and let the positive ones kind of get a momentum underway. You actually have a positive source inside of you. You don't have a negative source. But when you disallow your positive source, it creates that negative. I see that we are well past an hour. And so as for the rubric that I have set forth for myself these days, I think that's enough. I have done my oral positive meditation. I know a few months ago I started talking about doing a seminar, doing a live stream marathon, and that was going to come on the heels of me learning both inside and out to do the live stream, how to speak the things that I speak to what I know is a live audience. And I was having trouble with my electronics, with my technology, and then that was causing me to have distractions. And then that was causing me it was knocking me off my game, if you will. And so I've sort of pulled back to just the videos. Now you may notice that I really still don't ever change the name of the video is still always the same thing, except for the date. And so unless you go in and peer, unless you are consciously a fan looking for my work, you really don't find it anymore. If you have found it once, it doesn't look like it's a new video. They all look like they're the same thing, and that's okay. That's okay, because in the background here is just me trying to find my voice, trying to be able to speak about these things. Who am I? Who are we? And what is the point? Why are we here? And how could we add all of the information that we all have? How could we add it all up and understand each other better, understand ourselves better, be kinder to one another, no matter what the other person is choosing, unless they're choosing chaos. And then the only goal is to soothe the chaos back into coherence, allowing the person to come back into functioning properly with who they are and who the field is. You know? You don't have to micromanage this. We don't have to micromanage this in order for all of humanity across the planet to come into coherence with ourselves, with each other. Now, every one of us is going to have to deal with some things. You know, right now we're at a critical moment. Nobody believes that free, clean energy is possible. You put something like that out on the internet and people will debunk you or they'll try to debunk you. They come at you all the time and, I know that this is false because, duh, it's against the laws of the universe. It is not against the laws of the universe. That comes from people who do not understand the laws of the universe, who do not understand this magical and almost miraculous 0-point energy matrix field, this divine matrix, and the mathematics of it, and the implications of it. And we're going to come back tomorrow and talk about it again. And we're almost on Christmas. I will not come back on Christmas. I may not come back on Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is not Christmas Eve. So, I don't know. I will be back when I am back, and I will see you when I see you. I think that is a true statement. And until then, do your best. Be cool, be kind. Know that who you really are is the whole enchilada. And until tomorrow, or the next time, may that source ever and always be with you.